Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting of order for Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, and begin by acknowledging with gratitude that this meeting takes place on the unceded territory of Saminas First Nation, and we're grateful to be here. Ms. Boma, are there any additions or amendments to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Chair Gurley. A late agenda item containing information regarding legislation related to item 6.1, as well as a new business item, spring cleanup. Staff verbal update was circulated to council earlier today. It was posted on the town's website, and hard copies are available here tonight.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Our first item today is the minute approval from the Committee of the Whole meeting held March 11th, 2025. If there are no errors or omissions, I'll look for a motion to adopt, to approve. Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Mayor Beeston. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Now I'd like to welcome Staff Sergeant Trevor Bush from the Ladysmith RCMP for the annual Mayor's Report and Detachment Annual Performance Plan. Staff Sergeant, please take the floor.
All right, how does that work? All right. Thank you very much for having me this evening. Have a few updates to share about the detachment and as well as sort of the Island District RCMP landscape in general. One of the reports that I just received had some interesting information. Since the beginning of this year, Island District is noticing decreasing crime trends on the Vancouver Island as a whole. So total crime in the Vancouver Island itself is down 6.5% and 2.8% down in violent crime, so our more serious incidents, which was really positive to see. And we'll get to our local numbers specifically about Ladysmith in a minute, but I just wanted to first share with everybody, the last time I was here, I was talking about doing more community consultation. So we've shared a community consultation survey with the community, and it was available for several weeks. And it was actually very widely accepted. We had 424 people access that survey, and a pretty decent completion rate. 284 people completed it. And of those, about 89% were identified as residents of Ladysmith. So I feel like the town was very well represented on that survey, and we used that information to help shape our strategic priorities for this year, which I'll get to. We asked the community what their priorities were based on what the detachment was focusing on the year before. So those were road safety, visibility of the police and community engagement, our employee member wellness and training that we do internally, and reconciliation initiatives. And all four of those topics scored very equally, fairly comparatively, so meaning sort of equal importance among the community. I was really happy to see that over 55% of the community scored as being very satisfied or satisfied with the RCMP. And I thought that was a really good sign, but of course we want to strive to increase that number in the future. Some questions about general safety also scored very high. People in the community that responded, 96% reported feeling very safe during the daytime. And sorry about that, 82% reported that they were very safe at night as well. So I thought those numbers were pretty good. We asked the community if they felt that there were enough police officers. We got varying different replies to that question. Also took into consideration that the people who answered our survey aren't necessarily the folks that are always calling for police. In fact, over 50% identified that they didn't actually call the police that year, but they felt very comfortable. 84% reported that they would have no issue calling the police if they did need them. Yes, as I said, 50% did not call. However, they completed the survey. And 90% reported no issues whatsoever in getting a hold of the police or through our dispatch and things like that. So we feel very confident that if the public needs us, they're able to get us, which is good. One interesting stat that I pulled out is we scored sort of in the average category about media and communicating with the town, which is one area that I identified when I got here that I'd like to improve. part of that being my communication with all our stakeholders, and also to endeavor to do more media releases just to keep the community apprised of what our goals are and what we're trying to achieve at the detachment. So that will be something that we endeavor to improve on for the survey next year. We have received, the survey also allowed for a lot of open-ended comments. It wasn't just yes and no questions. We actually had 12 pages of comments on one question, and I think back here there was 6 pages of comments about satisfaction. So we received a lot of like open-ended feedback, what people were concerned about, and we took all of that into consideration when trying to identify what our strategic priorities are. But overall, I kind of summarized that for the most part, the survey indicates that people are happy with the detachment. They feel very safe in the community. They want to see more of the police officers in person and in foot, getting out of their police cars. They feel safe enough to call us when they need it. And overall, there was a lot of positive comments and appreciation for the police force in the town. So that's just a summary of how that survey turned out. And I'll share with you some of our statistics. Oh, it's up there. So much like the indicators on the island, our crime statistics are down throughout this entire report. So they're kind of into categories: assaults, various, we call them scoring. When we have a police file, they're specifically categorized, but then I've included them all into a category for assault. And you can see in some cases, like an aggravated, which is a very serious type of assault, an increase from 2 files to 1 is a 100% increase. But naturally, we want to see those serious crimes very low in number. But as a category, all of the assaults are down 11%. Much like sexual offenses, which are all considered to be serious crime, in my opinion, they were also down a significant amount, down 50% from the year before. Missing persons are down 19%, and Mental Health Act files are down 17%. Mischief includes a number of different things. Oops. There we go. Mischief is anything from vandalism to bothering other people to disturbing someone's lawful enjoyment of their place. It can include a lot of things, even sometimes confused with noise bylaw offenses. So if one apartment building is being overly rambunctious and it disturbs the apartment building next door, that can even be into mischief, which is the loss of enjoyment of your private space. And so a lot of different types of disturbances become mischiefs. It's one of the more common things we attend, and even that category is down 4%. Property crime is down 27%, and the numbers are actually very, very low. That being said, with property crime, one individual who gets released from jail, who's a known property offender, a prolific offender, one individual can completely throw these numbers into a tailspin. So that's really where our strategic offender management comes into play. And it could be a case where we had the right people out of the community at the right time. But for a 12-month category to still be down, I think that shows a pretty good trend. And thefts in the community were roughly the same, 2% higher, but quite varied depending on which category we look at. So theft from automobiles is one that affects a lot of people, and that can be one evening when people start checking door handles and enter into 12 or 15 cars in one night. Those files, they pop up from time to time, so that's probably one area that we can do some public messaging about proactively theft-proofing your property and your vehicles. So with all of that, we have created a proposal for an annual performance plan. Oh, thank you. And the themes are very much like they were the last year, but some of the actual initiatives are just slightly different. I would say probably more ambitious, and we're measuring things, I think, a bit more accurately than we were in the past. But road safety has been a common theme in previous years. It's been on our annual performance plan for Ladysmith for several years. I went back and looked at the last 5 years. Because we're a city that lives on a transportation corridor, it's pretty natural. We get a lot of driving related calls going through the community, and a lot of intersections that are at high risk for very serious crashes. So that also plays into a part of it. Hearing from the community survey, obviously safety around the schools, the crosswalks, and safety for children in the community was really big. So road safety incorporates all of that, our impaired driving, our ticketing, safe schools, distracted driving programs, check stops, and working with our partners at ICBC. As the survey indicated as well, police visibility was a key noted item. So getting out into the community more, doing foot patrols, going to those community events, being a community member was something that we heard loud and clear. And the members have really embraced that. We've been getting out at things at Transfer Beach and throughout the community everywhere. Reconciliation with our Indigenous communities and partners is something that's been on our APP for many years, and I foresee that it'll stay on there as well, especially with two nations that we serve here, Penelakut and Staminas. And employee member wellness and training, that is again staying from last year. Working on making sure we have a healthy working environment so that we can do a good job for the community. And accountability, leadership, and governance. When I met here the last time I was here, I committed to making sure that I'm attending the councils, doing those week in review emails, and keeping everybody informed. I've been getting good feedback from stakeholders in that regard, and I plan to continue that going forward. Again, I added at the very bottom there more media updates to the community, so that's something that we'll work on. And where and when possible, we want to encourage young people to consider a career in the RCMP. So we'll try to make it to some recruiting if that's something we're invited to with the high schools or career fairs or something like that. And with that, I welcome any questions or.
Thank you very much, Staff Sergeant Bush. I think first Councillor Pattison, then Mackay.
Thank you, and I think it's fantastic what you're doing. What?
We'll just give it a second.
Okay, here we go. Where the hell was it? The Citizens on Patrol, with the unfortunate demise of that organization, have you seen any difference in driving behavior, more speeding, et cetera, et cetera?
And yes, the answer is not yes. I wasn't here when we had Citizens on Patrol, so I can't really compare. I've seen it working in other communities that I've been in. I was in Comox and we did have Citizens on Patrol. They frequently reported things to us like 10, 15 years ago. It's kind of dropped off at most police stations, unfortunately. I have been in touch actually this week with our previous Citizens on Patrol team captain, I guess you would say. And I don't think we're in a position to try to revive that at the moment. We've been working really close with Block Watch as our volunteer group, so we've been trying to support them. Not to say that Citizens on Patrol may not come back in the future, but I'd have to look into it to see if it's possible. I don't know if it's affected driving complaints per se. We still receive lots of driving complaints.
Sure.
On
Your mic is off again.
on your mischief ones, false abandoned 911, is that calls that have been made and then dropped, or bogus calls to 911, 80 of them?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't believe they're like vexatious as in prank calls. We don't get a lot of those. So I would think it was the first one you said. I think it's calls that are dropped that then, so we get calls sometimes from a cell phone that has no subscriber information. That's one example. In fact, we just had one recently that resulted in a large, significant search and rescue effort. So any cell phone that's just laying around a house that someone gets a hold of and hits 911, that triggers a massive response and very difficult to narrow in and find. But I don't think we're getting prank calls or vexatious calls or anything like that.
Thank you.
Councillor Mackay.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you're doing. Really appreciate the weekly reports that you're sending out. I read them every week, and I think we all do. Just for clarity, the statistics that you have on the sheets, those are Ladysmith proper and the surrounding area that you tend. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So
Okay.
this is our entire jurisdiction. So I think in the future there's some possibility to maybe help fine tune these when we can kind of fill some of our office positions and get some of our support staff back into the office. It'll take me a little bit of time, but I hope every council meeting I can kind of fine tune this report and build upon it.
Awesome. Just to follow up. And so my last thing, it has to do with your annual performance plan. You mentioned restorative justice. I'm assuming you're working in conjunction with the LRCA programs.
Yeah, that's right. So
Awesome.
we've met with the LRCA. So far to date, we've provided 2 referrals that are still going through the process. Our goal is to try to find 1 or 2 a month. Restorative justice is a great opportunity, obviously, to help divert someone who make better choices in the future, things that don't necessarily need to end up in court. And yeah, it's a good program. We're working closely with them.
It's fantastic, and I know that's an area that they've been trying to really foster, and it's been a hard slog. So they will be as delighted as well to have that up and running and the detachment participating. So thank you for that. That's all I got. Thanks for everything you do.
Councillor Botana?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you and your members for all the hard work you guys do. And I second Councillor Mackay's appreciation of the weekly updates. They're great too. Just a total curiosity question, so no pressure to get it right. Under the mischief, I'm just curious, because these numbers look great, by the way, but the noise bylaws did go up a little bit. Do we have like do you know just offhand like a top 2 or 3 noise bylaws? Like, are we talking construction noise? Are we talking loud parties at Councillor Gorley sounds like, or is it just a whole thing? Like,
I'd have to look into those files and get an answer for you. I get a report every day about what the files are that the officers are going to, just to make sure that I'm aware of everything that's happening in the detachment. And you know, it's not something that's really hit my radar as a problematic thing. Noise. If it was a chronic place all the time, we would have a few more tactics maybe to try to deal with it. I think the noise bylaws are fairly spread out and not really a theme or repetitive.
Mayor Beeson?
I'm just curious about the false alarm under mischief. We're up to 161. Are those business alarms going off that you're checking out, and they're just
So they're usually a variety, business alarms and residential alarms.
okay.
We treat all of them as if it could be a break and enter in progress until we know otherwise. We also get a lot of panic alarms from commercial businesses when they're operating. People hit the under the counter button from time to time. Those usually result in a code 3, like alarms and siren type response. Because we want to make sure that someone's not actually being held hostage or in a dangerous situation. And then so a file is treated as a break and enter or something serious until it's proven otherwise, and then they get rescored as false.
And are the home alarms, are they calls that come in from like a security company that they say an alarm's been triggered and then they contact you?
Yeah, typically that's how it works. The security provider calls us.
And I know with some businesses there's a fee that gets charged if there's false alarms.
Yeah, that's been my experience here as well. I'd have to check with my support staff if that's currently what's happening in town of Ladysmith,
Okay.
but that's what I'm familiar with usually for when it becomes a chronic place. There's usually a cost back service for that for commercial places, but not typically for residential.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Back to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. Just not on your report, but with the recent incident in Vancouver with the Lapu Lapu Festival, is there anything coming down to local police about how they're going to be working or managing community events?
That's a great question, and that's a discussion that I've already had with other leaders in the community. That's obviously a very tragic event, and we don't want to have a repeat of that here. In my opinion, just speaking for myself, the events that we have in Ladysmith are what makes the community spirit in our town, and they're incredibly important and to me and I think to the people who live here. So it'd be a shame to see us lose those. So I think it's not going to be necessarily all on the police to sort that out, but I think as one of the stakeholders with with other agencies and the people who approve those, or other first responders. We have to talk about maybe getting together and meeting and talking about 2025 safety precautions that are somewhat proportionate to our town and to our population and to what we can accommodate. Because I think that would be a terrible tragedy to see something like that in our community. But it would be worse to see us not have events as well. So somewhere we have to meet. The police, we can provide recommendations and strategies, and see as a group what's willing to be adopted. But I haven't received any initiatives from RCMP headquarters on that. I do have suggestions, and I hope as a community, I would love to come to the table and talk with all of the stakeholders about that.
Through to Councillor Jacobson.
Thank you, and thank you again for this, providing this information. This is great. In your experience, and maybe you wouldn't be able to answer this on the fly, but how would our numbers compare to similar communities on the island in terms of, like, are we way out of scope in some of these columns, or way back on, like way behind on other ones?
Yeah, I don't usually get any information from other communities, so I can kind of just answer you anecdotally based on my previous posting was in Duncan. Last summer I worked in Port Hardy, which each community is very, very unique and very different, and they all have their own challenges. Also, from speaking with my colleagues, I know which police officers are busy in certain towns and which police officers are maybe less busy in other towns. My overall feeling is that Ladysmith is a very, very safe community. I firmly believe that. I think that our officers are doing a great job. They have the skills to take on the types of crime that we have. I don't think the community has anything to fear by living here. I think our numbers reflect that. The feeling of safety was very high. I think our call volume is manageable, and that's why we're focusing, when we're not going call to call to call, like Nanaimo or Duncan, we do have the time for those proactive initiatives, which is what I've made a real focus for my members, so that we're getting out there and meeting the needs of the community. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see a comparative report, but from my 6 postings that I have been to, and just anecdotally, I think our numbers are really good on the island.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks again for the very thorough presentation. Please pass along our gratitude to the rest of the team at the RCMP there. And thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. Next item on the agenda is item 5.1. The recommendation is that the committee receive the building inspector's report for the months January to April.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
Corporate officer.
I think we have to.
There are 2 motions, 2 recommendations. Thank you. First recommendation, that the committee receive the RCMP annual mayor's report for April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Mackay. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Second recommendation is that the committee recommend that council approve the Ladysmith RCMP Detachment Annual Performance Plan for 2025-2026. Moved by Councillor Virtanen, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to item 5.1. Building Inspector's Report. The recommendation is that the committee receive the Building Inspector's Report for the months January to April 2025. I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Jacobson. Discussion. Or seconded by Councillor Mackay. Yes. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question through to staff, I guess, is dwelling units for this year so far is 5, 2024 is 31, 2023 is 12. Is there the reason for the slowness?
Through to staff.
Through the chair. Yeah, we have noticed a bit of a slowdown in building activity. It could simply be an anomaly. For example, we've issued the building permit for the Islander Hotel redevelopment, which has a number of dwelling units in it. However, we're still waiting for the applicant to accept the permit and sign it. So had that occurred last month, that number would have been up. So sometimes there are monthly fluctuations, given that we're a small town. A single development can put our numbers way up. So we'll keep an eye on it, but those numbers may shoot up in the next couple of months as we enter the busy season.
Thank you.
Councillor Vertanen?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I actually had a very similar question, so you know what? Yeah, that was the answer there.
Okay. I think part of the factor, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Belababa, is that there were 9 demolitions, which is subtracted from all of the new construction. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. That's how that column is totaled. Ironically, the 9 demolitions, I believe, were actually in the Islander to start decommissioning those units. So it's kind of a double whammy. We're counting the units that are being demolished, while simultaneously we have not yet counted the new units that are to be built on the site.
So we'll let it all even out and then we'll take a look. Councillor Patterson.
Okay, thank you again through to Mr. Belababa. So they can demolish or deactivate some units in there without a building permit?
Through the chair, we issue different types of permits under the building bylaw: plumbing permits, demolition permits, building permits. So often what developers will do while they are waiting for their building permits to be processed will be to apply for their demolition permits so that they can begin key demolition work. I believe in the case of the Islander, they actually needed the demolition permit because they had to go in and remediate asbestos and other hazardous materials. So that can take some time and requires quite a bit of planning. So that's why you have the demo permit often preceding the building permit.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item is the Ladysmith Fire Rescue Reports. The recommendation is that the committee receive Ladysmith Fire Rescue Reports for the months January to April 2025. I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Vertanen, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item is Coastal Animal Control Services. The recommendation is that committee receive the Coastal Animal Control Services reports for months January to March 2025. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Vertanen. Any discussion? Councillor Patterson.
I believe I've asked for this or brought it up previously, but is there a possibility we can get on these reports from Coastal Animal Services if there's any repeat offenders as far as dogs that loose or aggressive dogs?
Through the chair, I know that staff have asked twice, so there maybe hasn't been any of them this term, but we can double check again so that they put the column in and put a 0 if there are no repeat offenders.
Thank you.
I'm generally encouraged that there's pretty low numbers of calls. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item is our Q1 financial update. The recommendation is that the committee receive the staff report dated May 13th, 2025 regarding the 2025 Q1 January to March financial update from the Director of Financial Services. I'll look for a mover, Councillor Mackay, seconded by Mayor Beeston. Discussion. Councillor Vertanen.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I know it's early in the year, but wow, great news on all departments. Those numbers are looking great. Just 2 quick questions if I can. Page 25 under the solid waste. Can you refresh my memory why did we only do a 1 year contract? Because it mentioned the difference in price by only doing a 1 year contract. Can you?
Through staff.
Through the chair, so we did a 1 year renewal of a rollover of a contract just to get us through another year because we weren't in position to do an RFP by the end of the year. So what we're working on right now is an RFP for the next 5 years. Yep.
Can
question.
Can I have a second
Yes.
question? Thanks. Thank you for that. On page 26, boy, those are super good numbers on Rex and Culture. And I don't need an answer now from staff, but it's just because it looks like programs are going up and stuff. I'm just really curious, like, just the top 3 programs that we provide, or the most popular kind of programs that we provide, because those numbers are looking really good. Thanks.
If there's no further, Councillor Mackay.
So just further to, oh, sorry.
Was that, sorry, were you looking for an answer on that?
Well, somewhere down the line, you can send it to
Apparently they had the answer.
It looked like he was going to talk.
Through the chair, can you repeat the question, please?
I was just curious because it looks like the program's popularity and revenues are going up. So I was just curious on maybe like just the top 3 or 5 like programs that are the most popular ones that people are interested in.
Thank you. Through the chair, yeah. Pick the 3. I'd say the top ones are the drop-in sports programs. Basketball with the youth is really popular right now. Pickleball continues to grow and demand more and more time, or request more and more time. And then our any fitness or sort of program that's designed for the health and wellness of people in their sort of 50s, 60s is extremely popular at the facility. Numbers are very high.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question too. Good, thanks. Councillor Mackay?
I actually will hold off on my question. And I think I'm remembering details, but I'll clarify it more privately than publicly. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more, I'll ask the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Item 5.5 is parklet fees and charges. The recommendation is that the committee recommend that council consider reinstating fees for parklets and patios on town streets as selected by the committee from you know what? If council's cool with it, let's have the discussion first because we have to move one of the options and then we'll go through the recommendations, if that makes sense. We've got to pick one of the recommendations, one of the options for fees.
Oh, I see. After we do this.
So I'll look for questions or comments. Councillor Vertanen.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess just a question because I'm kind of wavering between number 2 and number 3 as the options. When can we revisit this? Like if we're kind of wavering, kind of maybe you're on the side of caution, like would it automatically come back to us to look at this, say, in a year's time, or would we have to bring it back?
3-year terms.
Or pardon?
Is it for like a 3-year term?
Yeah.
Through staff.
Through the chair, if you pick an option, then we would enact it unless council wanted it brought back to disregard it. There is an alternative, number 1, that's not endorse a fee for parklets and patios using public space. So if you wanted that for now, and then it would take another request to bring it back. Or you can defer, and we can bring it back to the next committee of the whole, or whichever council would like to do.
Mayor Beeston? Microphone.
Sorry. I've come in on this and been trying to get caught up, but one question that I did have is, has there been consultation with the downtown businesses as to their feelings towards opening this up? Because it seems to me that if we approve one, then all of a sudden other businesses can start applying for them. And if you approve one, then you've got the door open to approving more. We're already losing a large number of downtown parking due to the building of the renovations of the Islander Hotel. And we've also lost a couple to the Temperance Hotel for their overnight guests. So I'm just wondering what consultation has been done with the downtown businesses, and how do the businesses that aren't benefiting from this one particular thing feel about it?
My initial reaction is that this is making the door a little more closed, not way more open, because right now anyone could apply for it and there's no charge, whereas this is putting in a charge. But I'll put it through to staff for a comment.
Through the chair, when the sidewalk patio permit program was developed during the COVID pandemic, we worked closely with the Downtown Business Association and the Chamber of Commerce to develop the rules for that. At the time, there was no fee. So, however, what's before council is not a change necessarily in the rules, but in the fee. So, I don't believe there's been any consultation on, since the pandemic on this particular topic, the fees, that is.
Councillor Mackay?
Thank you. I think, at the time that we did implement the parklet offer to businesses, and it was open to other businesses at the time during the COVID period, it was done with the very best of intentions, and we deliberately did not have fees on it to economically support the businesses that might access it. At this point, we only have the one. Am I correct in my understanding that anyone who applies for rental of spaces to do, say, a patio, if there was a restaurant that wanted to add a patio, they have to come through council? Is that fair to say?
Through to staff.
Through the chair, no, sidewalk patio permits are approved by staff, by the Director of Development Services. That is delegated.
So then, considering the fact that we are going to be down some parking spaces in a big way for the next couple of years, I'm all in favor for having the one that's there now paying a fee. I think that's fair, and I don't think they would argue with it. And a competitive fee is appropriate, I think. There's no reason why business would be any different now than it would have been before COVID. But I also would suggest that we find a way to make sure that we don't approve any other parklets or any other uses of parking spaces until after the construction of the Islander, so that we have all of the available spaces in the back. I don't think I'm in favor of doing away with the one that we've got, because it's an integral part of that business, and where it makes a tiny difference to the community to have 4 more parking spaces. It makes a massive difference to the business. And I'm not thinking that that's what we want to do personally, but I would be prepared to say no additional parking spaces could be used for such things from now. So a bit of a moratorium. That's just my suggestion.
Councillor Jacobson?
Thank you. Instead, I would hope to, before this went to council, to add a cap on how many parking spots at a time can be used per particular business. Like, we can't, or not only per particular business, but overall. Like, further to what Councillor Mackay said, I wouldn't want to have more than 5 or 10% of available parking stalls set out to or parking spaces set out to be converted to patios or parklets or whatever. As far as I don't have a problem charging a fee. I think that's only fair at this point. But I would like to see a cap, and I think another thing we have to consider is that where I'm thinking of the restaurants, because I'm assuming it would be restaurants mostly that would be using a program like this, or coffee shops. most of them are on the flat part of First Ave, like up at the top, which is seems to be where our parking congestion issues and complaints, I feel like those come from, because every time I drive through downtown, there's tons of parking down towards the library and on the other side, but there's not necessarily in the flat spot where everybody wants to park. So I would just hope that I wish it wasn't so convoluted, I guess, or so situational, but I would really hope that the spots would be capped to a certain percentage of parking spots that are available for this, and that maybe we look at within the block between High Street and Roberts, we wouldn't want to go more, we wouldn't want to add too many in there.
Are you looking for a comment on that?
I just wanted to share my thoughts with everybody. I hope it was loud enough for everyone to hear.
Through to Councillor Patterson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I like Councillor Mackay's idea of put a moratorium on it until the big major piece of work is done. But also, now will this be applying to sidewalk patios, sidewalk seating? Because the way I read this, there's nothing in there about patios on sidewalks.
Through to staff.
Through the chair, in terms of application, it applies to any use within the road right of way. And also, I'll just add a bit of background information for council's information, if I may. There already are limits on how big a sidewalk patio can be. It is limited to the frontage of the business's property, unless they have consent of adjacent businesses. Also, the total sum of applications the town has received for sidewalk patios, which includes the period during the pandemic when most businesses were desperate to establish outdoor space, is 2. Only one of those was approved, and that is the Zach's patio. We have not received any applications since then. I could say fairly confidently that staff do not expect a surge of sidewalk patios in the near future, with or without the fees in place. So I just offer that for council's consideration.
Now there's a fee. I'm going for it. Councillor Mackay.
No, just a follow up.
Okay. Yeah.
So if somebody did come along under this change, hypothetically, you pick number 3. Somebody wanted to put chairs and tables on the sidewalk without impeding pedestrian traffic. Would they be charged that rate?
Through the chair, it depends on the extent of the sidewalk they wish to use. We have a special exemption in the bylaw that allows someone to just put out a few chairs and tables, small scale uses. However, if they wanted extensive use of the sidewalk, or for that matter, any space within the road allowance, anything more than a table, small bistro table and a couple chairs, so to speak, would be required to pay the fee under the fee structure, and could be structured any way council sees fit as well.
Councillor Mackay.
Thank you. Since we added a parklet patio or a patio on our street, I've paid close attention in all my sort of travels and explorations around the province and other places actually. And what I have noticed is that in all places other than Ladysmith, the patios are removed in the off season. And I wonder if that is something that could be looked at in our community also. I don't know what the situation is with that exact patio. I suspect it's removable. I know it would be an expense for the owner. But is that a conversation that has been had, or is there an appetite for that?
Through the chair, yes, that is a conversation that was had when we changed the rules for sidewalk patios. The reason, so initially, Ladysmith had that rule. That rule was changed during the pandemic for two reasons. One, because like the Zach's patio, sometimes substantial construction works are needed to create a sidewalk patio. In the case of Zach's, it's because the street slopes in front of their site. So it became impractical to continually remove and replace that sidewalk patio. The other reason staff were supportive of the idea of leaving them out year round is that Ladysmith is in the region that has the warmest winter temperatures in Canada. So we actually have a much more extended season than say places like Toronto or even places on the North Island. So theoretically, you could have a function with heaters and other features. You could have a functioning sidewalk patio throughout the year.
Thank you.
Councillor Vertanen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to admit to sitting out there in February, but may have happened. I'm going to throw a number out there. I was kind of leaning as between option 2 and option 3 as far as the charge. I think right now I'm leaning towards option 2 just because before COVID, the what we charge for parklets and patios, it wasn't an issue. We took it off, as Councilor McKay said, to kind of assist. So I see number 2 is the same amount in 2020, but increased by the consumer price index. So it has kind of been raising with inflation. So I'm not going to die on that hill, but I'm going to throw that option out as one that I could definitely support.
Okay, I'm going to read the motion. You're going to move it with number 2. The recommendation. Yes. Go ahead, Mayor Beeson.
My question was, where do these relate to what we're charging the Temperance Hotel for?
We're charging them number 4.
Number 4. And oh, sorry.
That's for the.
Excuse me, through the chair, we're not charging the Temperance. That was a signage matter.
Yeah, my mistake. We're not. Yeah. I was thinking about the staging area, the temporary use permit. Okay. The recommendation is that the committee recommend that council 1, consider reinstating fees level 2 for parklets and patios on town streets as selected by the committee from options provided in the report dated May 13th, 2025, and 2, direct staff to amend Streets and Traffic Bylaw 1998, number 1309, based on item 1. Moved by Councillor Vertanen, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5.6 is the 2023 to 2026 strategic priorities update, and largely there for information. The recommendation is that the committee receive the 2023 to 2026 strategic priorities update dated May 13th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Jacobson, seconded by Councillor Vertanen. Discussion. Councillor Jacobson.
Great work. I am very excited to see all the blue. This is fabulous.
Yeah, great work, staff. Councillor McKay.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see these things transitioning to blue. I just want to, it's more of a comment than anything. I just had a giggle when I was looking at this and seeing things like 3% complete, 6% complete. And I had visions of, we've bought the shovels. Those kinds of things. It just, I think that's quite amazing that you can actually get a bead on 3% complete. So well done. I did read the details on it and do get the details. So yeah, just exciting stuff. It's going to be nice if we can get some of the 0% complete ones started. I see that they're sort of scheduled to be coming online soon. So yeah, stay the course. It's good stuff. Thank you.
It's because you can't buy shovels for those zoning changes. Okay, Councillor McKay.
Sorry, I did want to know what this is, and maybe I just haven't been paying attention. On page 42, under economy, Ladysmith satellite visitor pilot, 100% successful project. Can someone remind me what that was, please?
Through to staff.
If we completed it.
Yeah, it was done through the Visitor Center Chamber of Commerce. They did that, and I can't remember where they went, but I believe they went down to Transfer Beach and they set up a kiosk down there for visitors that were coming through to direct them to different areas around Ladysmith.
Oh, okay.
It may not have been Transfer Beach, but I'm pretty sure it was, and I can get back to council on that.
So a pilot project done in the last couple of years?
I believe they did it last summer.
Oh, so maybe do it again if it was a pilot.
Does Councillor Patterson not? No, remember that? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a partnership with 4VI, formerly known as Vancouver Island Tourism, with mobile kiosks to direct tourists. Pretty cool. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. The next, we're on to council submissions, and the first item is 6.1, Town of Ladysmith campsite discussion, sponsored by Mayor Beeston. Mayor Beeston, go ahead.
So, in the face of our loss of significant numbers of guest nights due to the closure of numerous bed and breakfasts and Airbnbs that won't be coming back anytime soon, the Temperance Hotel is booked solid right through to the end of the year, as is for the most part the Oyster Bay Microtel. We don't have overnight accommodations for guests. We don't have any opportunity to get people to stay in our community. I can't even guess how many people have brought this up to me while I was campaigning and since I've been in here. A lot of them have been fighting for it for many, many years. And I went and I spoke to planning and was advised that there are opportunities for us to move forward with campsites. I would really like to look into it because I think we're losing the opportunity to showcase Ladysmith to visitors. We're also losing the opportunity to support our businesses and recreational opportunities in town. We're in an opportunistic place where everybody in Canada is looking for someplace other than the United States to go. A lot of them are coming here and a lot of them are coming to the island and none of them are coming here. The days of, counting it a success if a visitor stopped in Ladysmith and bought a cinnamon bun, I think we can do better than that, and I'd like to see us do better. Along those lines, I was speaking to people in the CVRD, particularly Tim McGonigal, who put me in touch with Dalton Smith, who developed the Lakeview campsite for Lake Cowichan. It's operated municipally. They hire summer students for the most part. It's been a huge draw for the community. They feel it's probably one of the best initiatives they've ever taken. They couldn't come up with a single negative aspect to having done it. They're making revenue from it. They were able to source numerous grants to get it set up and while operating it. And he'd be happy to make a presentation. He'd love any of us that want to go down there and take a look, and he'd do a presentation if we wanted to put a committee together. And when I was speaking to provincial counterparts, they indicated that there was, for initiatives like that, they would probably be able to find grant money as well, and be supportive of that. So the one thing I did ask about, because I know it's a question that worries a lot of people, is if it causes problems, or if they've had any problems with unhoused people trying to move in or wanting to take over or use it as an access. They said they had one incident when they first opened, and that was in the off season that the people wanted to move in because the campsite was basically closed. Since then, they haven't had a single problem. I also contacted Bald Eagle, Mountain Air, Country Maples. I can never remember the name of the one at Timberlands. thank you and Living Forest and ask them, and they've never had a single issue. They get their reservations are made through the reservation site. The people come, the people go. They just are not having any difficulty when it comes to people trying to access the campsites as a place to live. So that just doesn't seem to be an issue for commercial campsites. So, any questions?
Councillor Patterson?
I'm not totally against the idea, although I'm very familiar with issues that communities such as Port Alberni and Courtney have had. My first question would be, where is the piece of property, or where could the piece of property be that we might look at excluding the waterfront? And what kind of rules? I would like to get information from other municipalities that have municipal campsites before we go too far on this, because some of the campsites I've been at, once they get people, and where we have our RV right now, once people get in there, I can't say what the sites have turned into, but they're a real rat hole, and the owners are having a hell of a time getting them out there. Port Alberni, they shut down Roger Creek Park because they were having fires and drugs and the whole 9 yards. We did, for a period of a couple of years, have a campsite down on the waterfront, and a piece of property that's quite popular. And we tried, George Pierce, who is gone now, leased it from the town, and we ended up within 3 months having permanents down there. They were installing telephones and everything. So I'm not too sure. I haven't heard of any business enterprise coming to the town wanting to set up a campsite. So I'm not too sure if that indicates that it's a revenue generator or not. But I would be very, very, very apprehensive about looking at this now without a lot more information and knowing where we were even contemplating putting it.
Councillor Vertanen? Do you want to be on the list?
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember the transportation campsite too, and that wasn't the best, but at the same time, I don't want to. That was a lot of years ago, right? I guess I've just got a ton of questions, very similar to Councillor Patterson. Not 100% against this, but there's just so many questions. Like, where are we talking about? Are we talking about temporarily? Are we talking about right? Like, there's a lot. I would actually like to hear more about, because you were mentioning some names from Cowichan and stuff. I would definitely be interested in hearing what other municipalities are doing if they're doing stuff like this. But yeah, that's not 100% against it by any means, but just a lot of unanswered questions.
Councillor Jacobson?
I don't feel like there's enough information to go on here to make any sort of like big step forward. As excited as I was to see all of the blue on the strategic plan update, there's a lot of green and there are some orange ones there still, and some that are scheduled even for this year. So I think as far as our decision-making capacity and staff capacity as well, because to my understanding, we don't have a current bylaw that we don't have any properties that are zoned for this specifically right now. I don't believe that there are any municipally owned properties that would be appropriate for this sort of endeavor. To what Councillor Patterson said, I fully agree, or I don't know, to be honest with you, that perhaps in Lake Cowichan there isn't, there's no safety issues or whatever. Lake Cowichan is quite far off the beaten path. You have to be wanting to be there to go there, whereas Ladysmith is right off the highway, and we've already seen a number of folks moving through town, taking their time and stopping along the way. And I would be very concerned that, you know, some of the issues that have come up in the peripheral areas of Ladysmith might just shift into a centralized space, and I don't know that we have the capacity to deal with that. And I don't think I would support the town taking on that liability, that expense, and just open the door to that sort of challenge right now when we have so many other things on our horizon. There would have to be so much public consultation on this, and of all the things that we already have on our plate with the OCP, strategic plan, everything else, I just feel like our plates are full. This isn't necessarily something that we need to be worried about right at this minute.
Mayor Beeson, do you have a motion that you'd like to put to council?
I did want to elucidate on a couple of things that people have brought up.
By all means.
When I did bring this to staff, one of the things we considered was a temporary site in the waterfront area where there are services, and it would not be actually it wouldn't cost a lot to set it up and put it into place, even with the consideration that it was going in as a temporary issue. I mean, temporary around here being 5 to 10 years. I mean, we've been 25 years sitting with nothing happening so far. So, and even then with the opportunity possibly down the line to turn it into an area where we could house workers if and when we ever actually did get anything going down on the waterfront, because that's another issue that the town has a big problem with, is that we don't have any accommodations for when construction starts. There's no accommodations for that. So I could actually bring this over to Jake right now, and he could talk about the area that we were talking about.
Okay. Would Director Billababa like to comment on that?
Through the chair, it is physically possible to put a campground in the area allocated under the waterfront area plan. It would be a question for council as to whether to go through with the expense of putting in the infrastructure necessary for that. I'll note that the waterfront area plan is scheduled for redevelopment, so once we receive a certificate of compliance for the town-owned lands, so there's a very real possibility that any infrastructure installed or any facilities installed for an RV park would then be subsequently ripped out to make way for future development. And given the progress we've made on remediation, that would be that could be in very short order, depending on when we get that certificate of compliance. But like I said, it's certainly possible to install something there. It's really a question as to whether council wants to do that or not.
Next, I have Councillor Mackay.
Thank you. Yeah, the waterfront area plan has been on the books since we started, the bulk of this council started, and it's been, I think, each one of our personal goals to get shovels in the ground before we enter the dark night of our retirement from council, whenever that is. The idea of getting compliance has been the absolute stumbling block for moving anything else forward. I am really reluctant to spend a bunch of money putting in infrastructure that isn't in any way part of the plan. The idea of the plan that we had, that the campground that had been down there, had that been a success, I dare say there might have been an appetite to put a campground in at the waterfront area for recreation, but that wasn't the case. You know, if there was another area, you know, the south of Ladysmith, there's a campground I don't think it's in the town of Ladysmith. It's Camper's Corner, if I'm not mistaken. It's actually a fully fledged campground, and I'm pretty sure it's running. Has a sign up. I feel like that's pretty close. I don't know what their situation is with full, people that live there year round. I'm not sure what that situation is, but it's full for people living there year round. No matter what we try to do, anyone tries to do today, it always costs so much more than they expect. And I don't feel as though it's a good way for us to spend money on something that we would be looking at potentially clearing away so the land can be sold to begin our development process. We've got such big plans and so much energy and excitement potential around it. And I agree with Councillor Jacobson. I think, people would have to have a really firm understanding of what's going to be going on the, and I believe the area that's being discussed is kind of hidden away on the waterfront as well. It's kind of in behind, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's just I have a bad feeling about it. I feel like it's a bad recipe. So I have a hard time supporting it as it is for the waterfront, certainly.
Okay, we're gonna keep going here, but I'm still aware we don't have a motion to kind of focus the discussion. But do you want to take the opportunity to put a motion to council?
I think the motion I would put forward is it even conceivable that we could make an attempt to get some of this information, to look at the feasibility, to look at the costs, the payback, and whether the opportunity is even feasible.
Seconded?
No. That wasn't a motion. That wasn't a motion. It was a question. But my reason I wouldn't support that if it were a motion in that intent is, and staff time, basically. We've got a project that's hopefully going to be starting down at Oyster Bay that has been a staff guzzler, I believe, in terms of time. If I could just through to staff about how many projects, I think I asked this at the workshop, how many different projects do we currently have in our development hopper off the top of your head? I think we had an approximate, I think it was something like 8 or 10 or something.
Through the chair, are you asking about everything?
Yeah, everything. All the things that take your department's time.
Well, it's, when you factor in applications, policy projects, daily inquiries, your SHMU, Airbnb rules, First Nations, economic development, intergovernmental referrals, I'd say a number of 100 to 200 various items.
So I'm just going to put it to you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how much spare time do you have for a spitball project?
Through the chair, our resources are fully allocated with the workload we have.
Thank you. That's what I was afraid of.
Through to Councillor Jacobson.
Thanks. I don't think I'd be supporting. Actually, I know for a fact I would not be supporting this motion at this point. Further to my earlier comment and Councillor Mackay and Director Bellababa's recent comments that staff is at capacity. This is a bit of a goose chase, I think. I think we just have enough on our plates, and I feel like opening up, if this is for the waterfront area property, then I think we're just opening up a can of, not necessarily can of worms, but work that's already been done. We've done the public consultation. This is what we're moving ahead with. It's been, yes, it is painfully slow progress. It is painful, like it's terrible. But I think that is the way it is in government from what I've seen anyways. It's just hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. But yeah, I just don't think I could support this. You know, it goes totally against what's already in the waterfront area plan, if that's the land that you're talking about. Aside from that, I don't think there are any other plots within town boundaries that would be appropriate for such a project, and I really struggle to find the value in putting in a temporary use such as this when we could be that much closer to getting permanent housing solutions. And I just think it's kind of pie in the sky.
Well, just to interject, this is not about housing solutions. This is about tourism, accommodations, recreation, visitors. Just
No, I can appreciate that, but as has been brought up by a number of councillors already, is that these don't necessarily stay as temporary tourism housing, short-term accommodations. It's not the same as somebody moving into an Airbnb for a month while they're completing a project here. It's not the same. Somebody moves their camper in, and you can't, and like Councillor Patterson said, they're there, and if they don't want to leave, it's really difficult to get them out. And I really struggle with that, because then it puts us in a really bad spot in saying, like, okay, we've provided this space, we've done this, we've acknowledged that there's a housing crisis, but we're not going to use this space for that. We're going to just move on, and like, we want to use it as tourism housing, not for permanent housing. So, and just financially, it doesn't really make sense to me.
Okay, I think we have gone around sufficiently and we do not have a motion on the floor, so I'm going to carry on. Item 6.2 is cemetery columbarium, brought to you today by myself. The recommendation is that the committee recommend that council direct staff to prepare a report for a future meeting of council that 1, presents options for increasing cemetery plot fees for non-residents, and 2, assesses the feasibility of installing a columbarium niche structure for the interment of urns. I'll move it. If there's a seconder, I'll speak to it. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Jacobson. So the reason I bring this today is that having worked in the industry for a while, today I do not, I kind of became aware of some areas that we could make some changes to our cemetery that would, I think, make it more equitable and might actually make it more profitable. It's been operating at a loss for, I guess, a long time. Item number 1 is there are already 2 tiers of rates for plots in the cemetery. There is a resident or former resident rate, and there is a non-resident rate. The resident or former resident rate is low, and I'm happy to keep it very affordable. It's well below market value. I don't feel like the residents of Ladysmith need to be basically subsidizing the final affairs arrangements for non-residents when there are other market options available in the region. I'd rather get the non-resident rate closer to a market rate. Item number 2 I have on here is, and I should also say, I'm aware that it is being used extensively by non-residents because it's cheap. Item number 2 is assess the feasibility of installing columbarium niche. So what I mean by that is it's a stone structure. They can be all kinds of different shapes, but a niche is in essence a cabinet, a cubic cabinet made of stone, and an urn, 2 urns typically made of steel or wood or granite or whatever, go inside it, and they're interred. And North Cowichan, their very large, beautiful cemetery, has a number of them, and they're offered by the private cemetery operators in the region, and they're very popular, particularly as cremation has become more popular. Interment options for cremated remains has become more popular, and the private operators, they love these things because they're so popular, and they have a high profit on them as well because they're very desirable. And obviously all the same benefits of densifying in a community apply to densifying in a cemetery. And this is just one way of extending the longevity of the cemetery by building up rather than just down and out, right? So I'll leave it at that, and I'll put it to Mayor Beeston.
My question is, I assume that our area up there is finite, and do we have room for non-residents, or should we be holding back room for residents? Like, are there numbers on that, like on projections of how much more, how many more internments can we even plan for?
Yeah, I can put that through to staff. If I don't know if they're prepared to answer
Through
that.
the chair, I think the recommendation is to bring back more information from staff, so that
Yeah.
could be included.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. We're schmooing it. Is there any new business? There is no new business.
Yes, there is.
Right.
There's a verbal update on the spring cleanup.
The items on the other pages. Okay, I'll put it through to staff. Oh, do I need to read something?
No, this is just a verbal update that's going to take place regarding the spring cleanup, and I think staff will take it from there.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Gorley was looking. This is more or less through the chair. This was more or less handled at the council meeting when council directed staff to come back with a survey and some options for the spring cleanup. So the spring cleanup happened. I'm sure everybody's seen comments on Facebook, whether it's pro or for or against. Some people use the spring cleanup. Some people don't use the spring cleanup. Some people feel that a majority of taxpayers are offsetting the fees for that service because it's still paid for, even though it's counted as a free spring cleanup. Some people feel that they were forgotten and that the large items weren't picked up, and then some were picked up successfully. So I know that the contractor themselves did pick up a few that they felt that they may have missed. Having said that, in speaking with Mayor Beeston, it was also decided that to put another session on, some people would be able to be using it twice then if it was successful for them the first time. The people that didn't get picked up hopefully would get picked up, and then some of the items that weren't ever going to be picked up would still be leaving them at the curb. So the decision was made that we'll learn from this. We'll bring back different options of what may be used and what works in other municipalities. And then council can decide if they want to continue with the program, do the program differently, keep the program the same. And we'll also provide a survey. Nick is going to do a survey for the community to see their feelings on it too. Would they like to see something different? Would they like us to continue, or would they like us not to have it at all?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Jacobson, seconded by Councillor Mackay. All in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned.